Hi everybody, it's Joe from Joe Pro Deco, and today I'm on a job, and one of the jobs I have to do is to remedy a water stain that's on a ceiling. So I'll show you that now. So there we have it. So anybody that's not familiar with what a water stain is, that's exactly how it will look. Now this is caused by a water leak, whether it's from a burst water pipe or whether it's a leak from the roof. Either way, it's water and it comes from above, and as it comes through the gap in between the ceiling and the loft space, or the ceiling and the floor in the floor above, what it does is it drags all the muck with the water down with it, and because the plasterboard is porous, especially from the inside, because obviously there's paint on the top, but from the other side there's actually no coating on the boarding, so it just seeps through like a sponge and it comes to the opposite side. So that's a good view of a water stain. So what can we do about it? Right, well today the product I'm going to be using, which I'll show you, is this one in the middle, and it's called Zinsser Cover Stain. And as you can see, it's an interior and exterior primer, sealer and stain killer. So it does exactly what it says on the tin. But what I wanted to do is, I didn't want to show you just this product. I wanted to explain a couple of other products that I have on the van and I also use, but for different situations. So the reason I'm using Cover Stain, it's actually an oil based, so it can be thinned slightly with white spirit or terps. I'll zoom in there. It's actually dry in 30 minutes, even though it's oil. It's a very, very clever product from Zinsser. You might not be aware, but Zinsser do make a lot of very clever products, and a lot of them are quick drying. Now, the only one I've not got here with the three products that I do use is the blue tin, which is the water-based. There's actually two versions of them. It's Zinsser Bullseye 123 and Zinsser Bullseye 123 Plus. Now they both claim to be the same thing: primers, sealers, stain killers. But they do different types of stain killing, and to be honest, the water-based ones I tend to stay clear of, or I used to, because I've used them in the past and they don't quite hold the stains back as well, which will bring me on to this one in a second. Right, so the Cover Stain is dry in 45 minutes and it's recoatable in 2 hours. So today I've got to do a load of ceilings. I've got to do ceilings in 3 rooms, and I've got 2 coats on all 3, so that's 6 coats of paint on the ceilings. So today I need something that's going to be fairly quick drying, which this is, and I need time to get 2 coats on and 2 coats on the ceiling. So I've opted for this Cover Stain because I actually do prefer Cover Stain on water stains specifically. The Zinsser BIN, Zinsser Bin, which is the red tin, that dries even quicker. But the problem with Zinsser Bin is that I've had in the past is I don't think it covers itself very well. So if you were to just need 1 coat, if it wasn't a really bad stain, you could go with the bin and it would cover in 1 and you'd be fine. But with it being a particularly bad stain, it will need 2 coats, and bin doesn't go over itself very well. It tends to soften the previous coat and it can cause issues, I've found in the past. Plus, it is that fast drying that if you brush it on, it leaves brush marks, and even when you're rolling, it leaves the stipple on. It doesn't flow out like this product does. So you can put, this is actually, instead of it just being normal oil based and with white spirit or terps, etc., this one is actually methylated spirit, which is why it dries so quick. And this stuff's got shellac in it. So shellac, for anybody that doesn't know, is what they have on nail varnish. It dries rock solid and really hard. The downfall to bin, like I say, is the application. The time it takes to dry can be a negative sometimes, but it is absolutely fantastic on stained and varnished timber. People use it for that. And what bin is really useful for, I find, is if you've got timber, bare timber, and it has a lot of knots on the timber. This stuff is the best product for that. What you do is you put the first coat on as a primer and a stain blocker in one. It holds the knots back, so that's what I would definitely use that for. So anyway, back to the cover stain, what we're using today. I'm going to put 2 coats of that on. And this one here, I have to give this a mention. If I wasn't in such a rush for the paint to dry, for the next coats going on top, I would use this. And this is purely water-based. So unlike the other two that are very high odour, they're high in VOC, they do smell quite a lot. If you wanted something that was pretty much odour-free, well, it's not odour-free, but you know, it's nothing like the other two. It's water-based. It's a bit like an emulsion. You would put this on, but the recoat time they recommend for this is 4 hours minimum, even though it is a water-based. But preferably, for best results, they say overnight. So leaving this product as long as possible, really. I have used it on stains, and I have put 2 coats on with a 4-hour gap in between, and it has worked perfectly fine. I suppose it depends on, you know, the climatic conditions, whether it's summer, whether it's winter, etc. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to be filming. I've actually got the camera in my hand anyway. So what I'll do is I'll get it on and I'll show you the end result. So
right, guys, so there you have it. That's 1 coat over that stain. And if I can just mention also that when you're applying it, I have mentioned this on another video, and it's very important. When you're applying a paint on top of a surface, if you're putting any primers or anything underneath, it's important that you have the same texture underneath, because otherwise that texture is going to show underneath, and you will be able to see it when the light hits it and it will flash. So it's really important that you thin the product slightly. If it's really thick, give it a good stir. And the little mini roller sleeve that I've used to apply this has the same size nap or the same length nap as the roller that I'm going to be using to put the emulsion on top. So there's going to be no difference in texture, and you're not going to be able to see any difference. You've got to do the most you can do to minimise the product flashing underneath the paint. Now you will need 2 coats on top of this, otherwise you will see the different shade underneath. It will show through. As you probably all know, or most of you will know, paint is generally a minimum of a 2-coat system. And yeah, so all of that 1-coat business, that 1-coat malarkey, all that retail stuff you can get, stay away from that. It's a load of nonsense. Paint doesn't cover in one. It's not meant to cover in one. It's not practical. Thin layers are the way paint should go on for best results. So I'll show you the end results, guys, once it's done. So I'll see you in a second. I have decided to show the application of one of the coats. So as you can see on here, it's not quite covered the stain. So we'll go over it with the mini roller. So on the parts that are most obvious. So with a second coat, you can apply it quite liberally and spread it out. Right, so there you go. That's now had the second coat. Promise you that won't bleed through, and 2 coats of emulsion on top of that, and you won't even notice it, guys. So I'll show you the finished product very shortly.
Right, everybody, so this is the final result. as you can see. So it's had 2 coats of Zinsser cover stain over the stain, just the stained areas, not the whole ceiling. And then it's had 2 coats of emulsion with the recommended drying times in between. So it's 2 hours in between each coat of cover stain. And then it was about 3.5 hours, 3 to 3.5 hours in between the emulsion, because the heating was on and the rooms were really warm and I had the windows open for a bit of ventilation, so the paint dried really quickly. So as you can see, there's absolutely no flashing and no stain coming through the paint. There is another option. You can use oil-based undercoat. Now the reason you use undercoat is because it's flat, and the reason I don't tend to use it in the trade is because I want to go over it again on the same day, and that's what these particular products allow me to do. It's for speed and efficiency. So you pay a little bit extra for these products, but it's worth it. You save it in labour costs. So, for example, an oil-based undercoat is not normally recoatable for about 16-18 hours, so it's generally the next day in good conditions. So that's why I don't advise to use the oil undercoat, but you can if you're not going to be going over it again until the next day, like I say. So there is that is an option. So I just want to recap that the one missing from here that I also use is the blue tin, which is the Zinsser Bullseye 123 Plus, but I'll reiterate that I don't generally like using that as a stain blocker. I think it's best used for a primer. So I use the 123 generally as an adhesion primer over difficult surfaces, shiny surfaces like plastic, PVC, glass, over oil-based paints. If it's a situation where I can't prep or I'm in a rush, you know, there's always a use for these products. They're very useful. So that's it really, guys. Fire away with any questions. Also, before I forget, there's different ways of using these products. People get along with one more than the other. This is my preferred use and my preferred way of using these products. Zinsser do recommend that you can use them, or the best use for certain ways. I'll give you an example, the cover stain and the bin. Now for tanning, for stained varnished timber, they recommend bin just slightly ahead of cover stain, even though you can use cover stain. They recommend it, but I prefer to use the cover stain because it's easier to use. So that's just me and my personal preference. So always check the data sheets, always check the Zinsser pocket guide to just double check to see whether it is advisable to use it. And that's all I can really say, to be honest. I think if you've got any more questions, please ask. Don't be afraid to ask questions and I will answer them as quick as possible. Please subscribe to my channel and click that little bell, and then you will get notifications on further videos. And please, if you like a video or if you get anything out of a video, please like it, because that'll help move it up the queue. So until the next video, everybody, I hope this video has been informative and I hope it's helped some of you guys out. I will speak to you again soon. Bye for now.